What's up, everybody? Today we're going to get some computers, control boards, power supply, wiring, that kind of stuff set up for this big ass ungodly printer. Alright, so I got a Big Tree Tech SKR Mini for this project to use in conjunction with the Creality board. And this being my first time messing around with Klipper, it took me 3 or 4 hours to kind of figure out how to flash firmware onto the boards and get the Pi image all set up. I gotta hand it to him though, the Klipper GitHub page has a lot of useful resources, so just look through those when you're going through this kind of setup. The hardest part for me was configuring 2 control boards on one Raspberry Pi, but if you guys want a video on that, drop a comment below. But after a lot of trial and error, it seems to be working. So here's the deal. I've been 3D printing an enclosure for the power supply, main boards, Raspberry Pi, that kind of thing. I'm thinking we're going to put it here in the corner because if we go roughly 2 meters up, 2 meters back, and 2 meters over, we're going to need at least roughly 6 meters of wiring. And if we put it here in the middle, that's going to add another meter. So anyways, let's get to it. Alright, just to kind of go over what we've got so far. We've got the wires for the heater cartridge on the hot end. X, Y, 0, Y1, extruder. Alright, I still have quite a bit to do, but I've gotten to a point where I want to test it. And so I moved the extruder closer to the main board. I have a lot of the wiring ran to the extruder, but I've got some other wires that I still need to extend, like the thermistor and the BL Touch and the fans. But I've got the stepper wired up through the extension and the heater cartridge. And those are the 2 that I want to test at the moment. And so I figured why not do it on camera. So we're gonna plug in and see if we can melt some plastic, and hopefully we don't let the magic smoke out. Well, no smoke, so that's a good thing. Alright, we got all connected to Klipper. Took me a minute. I had to grab a Wi-Fi pod so that I can get Wi-Fi out here in the garage. Probably have to do something, maybe run Ethernet out here or something, but we're all powered up, connected to Klipper. Let's see. We're about 6C. It's pretty cold out. It's about 40 Fahrenheit today, so I'd say that's pretty accurate. If we say, let's go 220 and see if that starts heating up. Oh, there we go. Kind of heard the power supply wind up. So that's cool. So yeah, we got the stepper wired here, and then we got the long, I don't remember what it is, 14 gauge going all the way to here, and then All I've got hooked up on the short one is the thermistor and the fans.
Why don't you eat some Boschetti?
I was hoping the camera audio picked it up. The filament vibrating is the stepper motor skipping, and it was something to do with the wiring. I swapped the stepper wire from a different stepper and everything worked good. So we're using a different set of wires, but we are gonna go ahead and extrude 50 millimeters. And we got plastic poop.
My poop is coming!
And then just for shits and giggles, I hooked up an end stop and tested the X-axis home. It moved in the wrong direction, but I can swap a wire around. We're still going to call that a success.
Great success.
Now, if you're one of the 3 people that made it this far in the video, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out. The next part of this video is just going to be talking about how ludicrous this build is actually going to be. I went ahead and scaled this Benchy up in Cura to 1700 millimeters, and the print time on this thing is just absolutely ridiculous. Even after tweaking the settings, I was only able to get it down to 24 days and about 102 rolls of filament. I'm sure I could tweak it a little bit more and get some better numbers out of it. This was with a 1 millimeter nozzle and 0.5 millimeter layer height. Here's a regular size Benchy for comparison. For the next part of the video, I kind of want to give you guys an idea of what I have floating around in my head. This first part of the animation is what we have so far and what we're going to be aiming towards. The next thing I need to do is buy a bunch more aluminum V-slot extrusion to reinforce the frame. If we're going to be printing 100 kilograms, we need to support 500 pounds on the print bed. After that, I'm going to have to hit up a metal supplier and get a sheet of either 1/8 or 3/16 aluminum for the build sheet. I'm probably going to do one of those silicone bed heaters wired up to mains power. We'll see how that ends up going. By this point, we should be good to start printing, but I'm going to add a few more things to the printer. The first thing I want to do is add some infrared heating lamps up top because I want to do a active heated enclosure. But also those lights are going to serve a purpose for a project in the future. You guys will just have to stay tuned for that. And then last, I want to get some of that 2-inch foam board insulation from Home Depot or something and build an enclosure around the thing. Now I have realized that a printer of this size is going to have some limitations. The first and most obvious is probably going to be the amount of plastic that you can physically shove through the nozzle. My setup currently is going to be a Micro Swiss heat break with a Volcano replica nozzle. I'm going to put a 1.2 millimeter nozzle in there to start with, but I eventually want to go to a auger type extruder. The other thing we're going to need to upgrade is cooling. I found this file on Thingiverse. I'm going to give it a shot as long as I can make it work with my BL Touch. Anyways, I think we're going to cut this one off right about here. If you made it this far in the video, do me a huge favor and subscribe. It's really going to help me out when tackling big projects like this. But we'll see you on the next one.